The purpose of this video is to give you some ideas about how you can score higher for part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. I'm putting this out as a YouTube video and also as a blog on my website, so you'll be able to see this in written form as well as watching this video. So the two kind of work together, and I'll also be showing you a bit about my website and a couple of ways that this can be used to help you prepare for the test and increase your score for part 2 of the speaking test. So my website's IELTSanswers.com. You can see it up here also. So one of my first suggestions is that you try and understand the different topics that get asked. And basically, from my experience as an examiner and IELTS tutor, I've broken these down into 5 different themes. So we can see people, places, objects, activities, and experiences. And I've done the same thing on my website. So you can see the same thing on my website. You can see questions under each of the categories. Okay. I can click on places here and it'll take me straight down here, and now you can get questions about places. Okay, so there's lots and lots of questions here under these 5 different themes that you can use to help you to prepare. Now, under these 5 different themes and 5 different themes of questions, we can have different ideas or aspects to talk about in order to extend our discussion and try to make it last for 2 minutes, and also to get out high-level language to impress the examiner. Now, if we analyse each question, one thing we can notice is that the first word is always describe. This one, describe an interesting modern building. Describe a city. The first word is always describe, okay, for every single part 2 IELTS task. If you don't believe me, have a look at the Cambridge books of past test papers. The first word is always describe. The part 2 speaking test always asks you to describe something, and I've organised these under the 5 different themes. Okay, probably see it easier here. People, places, objects, activities, and experiences. Okay. So one of the first things that I encourage you to do is to try and understand the different topics or themes that get asked. Now, with each of these 5 different themes, we can talk about different aspects. For instance, if it's a question about a person, we can talk about their appearance. We can try and use some high-level language for appearance, such as beard, moustache, goatee beard, ponytail. Okay, we can talk about the person's personality. What sort of person are they? Are they an extrovert, an outgoing person? Are they an introvert, a shy person? We could talk about their hobbies. And again, we want to use high-level language. Soccer's okay, but something like orienteering, mountain climbing, or perhaps something a bit more like extreme sports such as bungee jumping. We can describe relationships for the person with ourselves or even with other people. Is it a close relationship? Is it warm? Is there a power relationship? If it's your boss, then there's a power relationship involved. Okay, then we can move on to places and do the same thing with different places. Places could be buildings, they could be places of natural beauty, such as parks. We can talk about the location. Where is the place? What is the exterior like? What's the outside of the building say like? Is it a skyscraper? We can describe the interior. What sort of flooring does it have? Does it have carpet? Or does it have natural wood, timber, hardwood floors? We can talk about the atmosphere there. What's the atmosphere like? Is it a tranquil and peaceful atmosphere, or is it a busy atmosphere with lots of hustle and bustle? It could be used to describe cities. If it's about a hotel or a restaurant, what sort of service is it? Is it 5-star service? Then we can go on to objects. Objects could be things like your smartphone, or your camera, or your pencil case if you like, or a watch. With these objects, you could talk about how you got the object, who gave it to you, and we'd be back to talking about a person. What does it look like on the outside? Possibly the inside, but not, obviously not if it's a smartphone. Maybe you've opened the case. You could describe where you put the battery and SIM card. You can talk about the function. If it's your smartphone, you probably use it to surf the internet, keep in touch with friends and family. Perhaps you even use it for GPS navigation. We can talk about the price. Did it cost an arm and a leg? And we can talk about another related object. If it's your smartphone, then you could talk about other things such as the battery, the case, the selfie stick. Now, these three are the three themes that I really encourage you to prepare for yourself. You may be thinking, oh, but I don't have enough vocabulary for these. You probably do. Take a piece of paper. Write down different types of appearances for people. Try and get out some high-level language. Okay. Same thing with personalities. Adjectives to describe a person's personality. I'll come on to some of these a bit more later, but most of these should come from yourself. The key point for preparing for this test is to get out the language you already have. You probably already have lots of high-level language, but can you show it to the examiner? If you don't, then you don't get rewarded for it. Getting to level 7 requires, for vocabulary, for lexical resource, requires that you use advanced language. Okay, so I recommend strongly you prepare for these three, and another reason why is because we can often use or recycle these three when we're talking about activities and experiences. Okay, so these three are very, very useful. Now, we get on to activities, so things like going hiking or playing soccer or going on a picnic. These are activities. They often involve people, places, and things, so we can often recycle our language up here. But not only that, there's other aspects we can talk about, such as what you did. What did you do? You went hiking. Well, you could explain a bit about going hiking. Who you did it with. Back up to people. When? Was it early in the morning? Are you an early bird? What equipment did you need? Back to objects. Okay, so in talking about activities, we can think about these aspects. We can also recycle a lot of the ideas that we've got up here. So there's lots and lots of things we can talk about when we're preparing for an activity. Experiences. These are things like being late, graduating from school, a humorous incident. Maybe you've seen some of these topic cards. If not, you can get ideas from my website if you want to see some ideas of topics. Questions. Discuss a time when you did something to help someone. Describe a time when you heard some good news. Describe a meal that you enjoyed. These are all experiences. So when talking about experiences, we might be able to talk about people, places, and things, objects. You could also describe what you did. You could tell a story about it. Who you did it with, back to people. When? Again, was it early in the morning? Was it late at night? Were you burning the midnight oil? Okay, so I advise you to prepare for these 5 themes and come up with vocabulary, language to describe some of these things. Remember, the first word's always describe, so the task is always to describe things. Okay, and then the other thing is to go to my website. You can, if you're using the blog, or you go to the blog, you can use this link and have a look at lots of sample questions. Practice planning them. What would you talk about? What language would you use? Okay, a couple of other suggestions. Lying is okay on the IELTS test, or just making up stories, stretching the truth. If you get an extremely difficult topic, you can make up things about it. Let's say the topic's something like describe a time when you saw a wild animal. Well, you might find this topic very difficult. To make it easier, you might make up a story about seeing the wild animal. Now you can start talking about some of these things. You can talk about where you saw the wild animal. You can talk about who was with you when you saw the wild animal. You could talk about maybe having your smartphone and being lucky to get a photo of it. Okay, so that's why I write here, lying is okay on the IELTS test. The examiner doesn't know you, and sometimes you might just invent things to make it easier to talk about your topic. And the other reason is to increase your score for lexical resource. And note the example here, instead of being a red car, we could say it was a magenta car. So we just change things about the truth so that we can show higher level language to the examiner. Another piece of advice is to prepare lots of adjectives and to use lots of adjectives. Remember, the task is about describing something, so you're always going to have the opportunity to use lots and lots of adjectives. So here's a few that I've written down as an example. People, we can describe them as being introverted or shy. We can talk about them being an extrovert, which means that they're outgoing, that they're extroverted for the adjective form. We could talk about the person being a narcissist, which means the person's very self-centered and self-focused. We could talk about the person being a perfectionist, wanting everything to be just right. Moving on to places, we could talk about a place such as a mountain or a tower or a skyscraper having a bird's eye view. That means a view similar to what a bird would see. A panoramic view, which means like a 360-degree view. If you're describing a house, you could talk about it having a white picket fence. Maybe there isn't even a fence, but it comes back to this point about lying is okay in the IELTS test. So you say it has a white picket fence as a way to have more to say and also to increase your score for lexical resource. When we talk about things, we can talk about colours such as magenta and turquoise. We can talk about size such as microscopic, very, very small, needing a microscope to see it. Or the opposite, enormous, something being huge. So we've got adjectives to describe these things. Another idea is to use relative clauses. Relative clauses are useful to add details about something. These are words like who, which, and then. So, for instance, if we're describing an old person who we respect, we might say Tom is a person who is very introverted and seldom goes out. Okay, so we use the relative clause who in order to link the extra information about being introverted. My next piece of advice is you do lots of practice. Practice speaking for 2 minutes on a wide variety of topics. You can get them from my website. I've got a link for you. The link on the blog is up in here, but also if you just go to my website, IELTSanswers.com, it's not so difficult to navigate. Just go to the speaking link and scroll down to part 2, sample questions. It's easy to see lots of questions. There's other pieces of advice in here as well. If you're worried about your test or if it's rapidly approaching, you might want to have a mock test with me. I've worked as an IELTS examiner. I'm an IELTS tutor for many years. I can help you to not only find out what level you're currently at, but also how to increase it. I can pinpoint weaknesses such as not using sufficient high-level language or pronunciation problems. If you want to do that, there's a link on the blog here, or you can go to my website right here, Speaking, Learn IELTS Speaking over Skype. I hope you found this video useful. I have other YouTube videos and you're welcome to check those out. And I also encourage you to have a look at my website because there's a lot of information on all parts of the test. here, not only for speaking but also for other parts of the test. As well as that, I have three main services that I provide that I charge for. One is speaking. I can give you mock tests. Another one is writing correction. And then the last one, I've written some instructional ebooks that I do charge for as well. So those are a few things that you can get off my website. And then there's just a whole lot of free information on there too. It's quite detailed, like writing, the different parts of the writing test, different parts of the speaking test, and then reading and listening questions. So I encourage you to have a look at my website, IELTSAnswers.com, and also my other videos. If you want to contact me, there is a link to contact me on the website. So you're welcome to write questions to me. Sometimes I'm online here, and you can, if you see I'm online here, you can type a question and get an immediate response. And also you're welcome to leave comments on the bottom of any of my pages. Good luck with preparing for your studies, and good luck for your test if you're having one soon. You're welcome to contact me if you're having any types of issues, and if you've got any questions about any aspects of this video, you can also just leave a comment underneath it on YouTube so that I can get back to you.